So Sean Bean is in this movie, and I think we all know what that means. Okay. I'm just kidding, but am I really? It's just, it had to be said. It's Sean Bean. I couldn't resist. Though I'm not going to tell you whether or not he really dies. But let's go ahead and talk a little bit about Knights of the Zodiac. All right, so I went into this movie completely blind. I didn't know until right before I walked into the theater. One of the managers was telling me that it was based on an anime or a manga. And, well, both, I guess. And I have jumbled thoughts. So I didn't outright hate this film, which is a good thing. There were some things about it that I thought was kind of cool and that I appreciated, but it was also flawed. And I have just gotten home, so I'm going to go by the notes that I took and try to refine a little bit as I was getting the pictures together. Of course, Chibi. Hold on. Come on. Sorry. She had to get down and then she just had to get back up again. What was I even saying? Okay. I know what I was saying. I'm going to try to go by the notes that I took and that I refined a little bit before I pressed record, but I am very fresh off of seeing this movie. I mean, it's like, okay, it's been a little bit more than an hour. So, like I said, it's based on an anime. I went into it totally blind. I didn't know the premise at all. I just knew it was going to be something that was going to be, supernatural-ish, paranormal, super fantastical stuff, okay? And it is. And it started off, when it started off, there's like this animated scene showing, and it has something to do with, well, hold on. I'll tell you the premise. The basic premise is Athena has been reincarnated. She's come back and she's in the body of this baby. That's how it starts off. And the baby is protected. This knight or something gave his life to protect the baby, and then someone else comes and takes care of the baby until she's like 18 or something like that. And it started off, the opening scene was a digital animation. And I thought, oh wait, is this an animated film? And the actors that I saw that were going to be in here, because there are some recognizable faces, are they just lending their voices? No, that's not the case. While there is a lot of CGI and animation in here for sure, that opening sequence was just, think the type of animation, digital animation that they did in like the Wonder Woman movie when they were showing flashbacks of the gods and stuff like that. And so then it picks up 18 years later, and this guy who is supposed to be or could be a potential, what did they call him? A Pegasus Knight. They called him a Pegasus Knight. And so he has to undergo this training to fulfill his call, not his calling, but like his potential. And the things that I liked about this is that, well, in the beginning, one of the opening scenes takes place in like a cage fighting type of underground fighting place. And Nick Stahl, he's like one of the dudes that runs it or watches over it or whatever. And he has a pretty kick-ass fight scene, Nick Stahl and this other character. It's been a bit since I've seen him in something, so it's kind of good to see him back again. He looked pretty buff, in shape, and I don't know if he just got that way for the part or if he's just kind of been that way for a while, but whatever, it's cool to see him. And like I said, the fighting scene with him in it was pretty cool. The fight scenes in here were pretty cool, but then after a while it got a little bit tiring, all the slow-mo and the twisting and flipping and the corkscrew twist or whatever the heck it is they do when they do that. It had this feel of a video game. Some of the fight sequences felt like a video game. Also, some of the shots had a definite anime feel. You could tell that was I mean, if I hadn't known that, that's what I would have felt when I was watching it. Wow, this was like an anime because of some of the way some of the shots were done. I'm curious to know whether anime fans or fans of this original series like the live action version. It doesn't have the greatest reviews. Obviously, the critics hated it, and I can understand why. IMDb scores like just under 5. Rotten Tomato scores is just under 70. I don't hate it as much as wanting to give it under a 5, but I don't love it as much as wanting to give it as high as a 70, because I don't think it's as good as that, but it's not the crappiest thing I've ever seen. Hold on. Oh my goodness gracious, all the dogs. A couple of other things that I liked. I liked that when this guy goes through the training that he goes through, it's not something that comes intuitively or easily, and he fails a lot. So you see this happening. That's good. I like that he wasn't able to, once or twice, and then on the third time, he's able to magically do this thing. No, it took him a bit of time to be able to work up to where he was, and even then he wasn't fully prepared. Also, the person that he was training with, while her costume wasn't the most awesome, I liked the mask. She wore a mask, like this teacher, trainer, lady, or whatever. I don't even remember what she was, but gosh, I can't remember her name. But I thought it was cool that they used this, and it reminded me of like a gladiator mask. You know, like in the movie Gladiator, this guy wore this gold mask. Well, she wore a mask kind of, reminded me of that. And I was like, that's actually pretty cool. And I like that they didn't show her face, because this gave her a bit of mystery and made her seem a bit more intimidating. Well, she had these powers or whatever, and she was teaching him. But the mask, I think, was an effective tool, because if they'd showed her looking and talking, with her regular face, maybe it would have felt a bit corny. And the mask gave this bit of removal from her, like gave her this mystique. And I like that. Also, something else that I appreciated was that they try to give some depth to these characters. The characters aren't completely paper thin. Like I felt that they had a bit more depth to them than, let's say, the characters in Mortal Kombat, the movie that came out a couple years ago. That's not saying a ton. It's just saying they had a little bit more than usual. And so I felt like they were at least trying to make the effort as far as that went. From that, moving on to the cons, well, it felt to me like there was too much happening in too little amount of time. The runtime of this movie is 1 hour and 52 minutes. In reality, the credits started at about 1 hour and 40 minutes, and there was just way too much. It felt like this was something that, if you really want to set up something cool and establish some real depth to the characters, like true depth to the characters, you need to make it long, especially all the stuff you have going on in here. You need to make it longer than just 1 hour and 40 minutes. You need to make it 2.5 hours, potentially more, or you need to make it some sort of like a limited series run. It just felt like, much like with the movie Hypnotic, there was just way too much that was crammed into too little amount of time. A lot of the stuff in here was very formulaic, even though I appreciated, like I said, that they did try to give a bit of depth to the characters, and they did show that he was training. That was kind of formulaic too. He trains and trains, and then he's able to kind of reach his potential. But at least it wasn't something handed to him so easily. But a lot of stuff very formulaic, and plot devices to be expected, budding romance and that sort of thing. I did like that the character of Famke Janssen, she wasn't your typical cookie cutter villain type. You understood what was up with her. What else? Yes. A lot of the fight things that happened with the main guy, especially when he was training, and not one bruise on his face after she was kicking his ass in the beginning. Stuff like that, just like, okay. Something else that I felt when I was watching it is that, honestly, it would have been better as an animation. If they're going to make this movie, I think it would have worked on a better level than making it live action, because it's really hard to adapt stories like this. It can be done, but it's really hard, and it feels like it's pretty doggone rare that they can effectively take this type of subject matter and turn it into something that translates well onto the big screen with live action characters. There was a character in here also, it showed him, he'll come around again. I feel like he was really underutilized. It wasn't until the end, this guy right here, I think it's him. Yeah, the other guy, the one right before him. It wasn't until like the end that something happened with him, and it's like, oh, okay, well, this just kind of came out of nowhere. There was no lead up to this development with this character, and that's another reason why it feels like this was just too short. I don't know if it's because there was just a lot of stuff cut out of here, or if this is really what they filmed, but I wish they'd have just taken a bit more time to try to give us something that was more grounded in a bit more, or had a bit more emotional depth. The character who played the goddess Athena, hold on a minute, I'm recording, and they moved my camera. What was I saying? Oh, you're going to get down, then you're going to want to get back up. Okay, well, yeah, I was talking about the character, the girl who played Athena. Okay, so the acting in general, Sean Bean was Sean Bean, you know. Famke Janssen, she was okay, but the acting overall just felt not very weighty. The main character, he was okay. She, the goddess Athena chick, she was all right, but it just felt like they didn't carry the material the way that I feel like they needed to. There were some parts in here where he did fine, but then there were other parts where it just felt like he just doesn't have the acting chops needed for a role like this. Now, I don't know who this guy is. I also don't think I've ever seen the girl who played the Athena character. They definitely did not make huge impressions on me as far as their acting talent. I feel like also this film leaned a bit too heavily on the special effects and the cool fight choreography to the detriment of giving us well-established characters. And so because of stuff like that, this film just wasn't as good as it could have potentially been. I mean, all bad films could potentially be so much better. So whatever. I mean, I'm not going to say that this was a bad, awful, craptastic film. I did watch another review. I think it was Rodney. I watched his review and he hated it. He thought it was just terrible. And then I watched another review, and this girl, I don't remember the name of her channel, but she loved it. She's an anime fan and she just really, really loved it. You've got these two people that feel completely differently about it, and I kind of feel like I'm a bit in between. I don't hate it, but I'm not in love with it, and I definitely see the flaws. I did understand the characters and their motivations, but I just feel like the characters didn't have enough depth. They had more than maybe I would have expected, but still not quite enough to make this really memorable and completely enjoyable, or more enjoyable than it was. I'm not mad that I saw it. I wasn't tempted to walk out, but I probably won't rewatch it, and I don't think I'll be rushing out to see the sequel if there's ever going to be a sequel. It does lead up to the potential for a sequel, but I'm just not sure that that's going to happen. I don't know how much money they threw at something like this. Probably much of it went towards the digital effects and stuff. I don't know. Anyway, okay, this went on much longer than I meant for it to, so I'm going to go ahead and wrap this up now. And if you guys know anything about this anime or the manga, are you even halfway interested to watch this? And if you've seen it already, do you hate it? Do you love it? Or do you feel just, eh? Anyway, okay, that's it, you guys. Later.